Hyper Light Drifter is an upcoming 2D action role-playing game developed by Heart Machine. The game is an homage to 8-bit and 16-bit games of the late 20th century, and is considered a combination of The Legend of Zelda, A Link to the Past and Diablo. Alex Preston, an animator and lead developer for the title, originally launched Kickstarter funding for the title for approximately $27,000 to develop the title for Microsoft Windows, OS X, and Linux computers, but ended up with more than $600,000, allowing him to hire more programmers and artists, and expanding the title for console and portable platforms through stretch goals. Though originally scoped for release in 2014, various improvements in the game and issues with Preston's health have set the anticipated release for Q2 2016. Gameplay and story: Hyper Light Drifter is a 2D action role-playing game fashioned after The Legend of Zelda, A Link to the Past, rendered in a pixelated style comparable to Super Brothers, Sword and Sorcery EP. The player controls the Drifter, a character that has access to technology that has long been forgotten by the inhabitants of the game's world, but is forced to search through the world and the ruins of civilization before to find a cure for an illness he carries. The story concept was inspired by lead developer Alex Preston's heart disease, and has been likened by others to Studio Ghibli's Castle in the Sky, while Preston cites the studio's Nautisar currency of the Valley of the Wind as inspiration for the game's world. The Drifter is equipped with an energy sword, but can gain access to other modules that expand his weapon and ability arsenal, but often require power from rare batteries to be found in the Travels. Weaponry will include traditional console role-playing game archetypes, including long-range guns and area attacks. The player will face increasingly difficult monsters, both in number and ability, requiring the player to hone their tactics to succeed in the game. Preston's goal was to replicate the experience of playing on the Super Nintendo Entertainment System, noting that the unit had amazing, almost perfect games designed for limited environments, which he challenged himself to simulate in Hyper Light Drifter. One facet of SNES games that Preston has captured is that there will be no spoken dialogue, placing more emphasis on the game's music and visuals to tell a story. Development: Alex Preston had yearned to develop a game that combined the best elements of The Legend of Zelda, A Link to the Past and Diablo for many years, which would feature world exploration and combat that required some strategy by the player depending on foes they faced. After several years of being an animator, he felt he could do so in 2013. He originally set out to make the game for Windows, OS X, and Linux computers, and started a Kickstarter campaign in September 2013 to secure $27,000 in funding to complete the title. Prior to starting the campaign, Preston had secured the help of programmer Bo Blythe, who created titles like Samurai Gun, and musician Disasterpiece, who worked on the music for Fuzz, and called the team Heart Machine. The project funding was exceeded in a day, and quickly grew over $100,000 within a few days of its launch. To encourage additional funding, Preston created new stretch goals, including additional gameplay modes, more bosses and characters, and expanding the release to include the PlayStation 4 and Vita, the and the Wii U consoles. These goals were all met by the completion of the campaign, with more than $640,000 raised. Preston stated that he had had these additional platforms in mind when first launching the Kickstarter, but did not want to overpromise what he felt he could deliver. The additional funds have helped Preston hire additional developers to aid in porting the game to these additional consoles. The game will also be released for the Xbox One. The game was originally set for release in mid-2014, but since has been delayed until the second quarter of 2016, due to the expanded scope of the game, the need to perfect the game before its first release, and developers' health issues. Preston had previously spoken on how his long-term health problems had influenced the direction of the game, and even inspired the name of his team, Heart Machine. With the most recent delay announced in August 2015, Heart Machine said that they will plan to release the Windows and OS X version first with the console versions shortly thereafter once they clear the console certification processes. Reception: The game was named as an honorable mention for the Excellence in Visual Art Award for the 2015 Independent Games Festival. References. External links, official website, Kickstarter page.